welcome back to 24 Minutes of A24, the podcast that takes a look at the A24 library 24 minutes at a time. I am Ethan Simi.
And I'm Ben Lawhorn. This week on the pod, we are running through the flower fields, feeling all of our feelings, talking about Lucas Doan's film, Close.
The intense friendship between two 13-year-old boys, Leo and Remy, suddenly gets disrupted. Struggling to understand what has happened, Leo approaches Sophie, Remy's mother. Close is a film about friendship and responsibility. This week is a very special episode because, in fact, we do have another guest with us on this pod. Excuse me. And this topic is chosen by this guest at SweetPJess on Twitter. Came in a third place, I believe, in our Oscar predictions poll. And because of that, she got to choose a topic to the episode, and she tossed it to us and was like, we should talk about this and I should join you. And we were like, hell yeah, come on board. So Jessica, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Guys, thank you so much. I'm so excited. And I'm also so glad, even though I wanted to do a recap, that there was a movie that you hadn't seen yet.
Yeah,
Me too.
This is good.
Yeah, it's, I'll save my feelings for when we get into it. I have very mixed feelings right now. Very positive about the movie. We are never opening up suggestions to a guest ever again, though, because I've cried in the last 2 hours than I have in the last 2 years, it seems like. So, but yeah, this was fantastic. I'm super stoked to have you here.
Oh, it's nice to be here. You guys are amazing. I love that you care so much about A24 films. It's nice to find people that like what you like.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Totally. I mean, A24 is in a bit of a pickle right now because they have grown so mainstream. And so people think it's cool to, hate on some mainstream stuff. But look, we were here before they won all the awards. Let's just say they didn't create an Oscars record before we existed. So I feel like we're involved in that somehow, some way.
For sure.
100%. So yeah, Jess, you chose Close. Now, this movie was nominated for Best International Feature Film at the 2023 Academy Awards. It was Belgium's entry into that. And I get it. Totally get it now. I see it. This was our friend Clayton Davis, the senior awards editor over at Variety. This was his favorite movie of 2022. I'm going to let you start off, Jessica. This was your pick. This was your idea. What do you think of Close overall? Give us your relationship to the movie.
Well, let's preface, just quickly, spoilers ahead.
Yes, that is fair.
Let's mark it now because we're gonna get into it.
Yep, spoiler territory
for sure. So I was on a mission this year to watch all 54 Oscar films, which was completed. I know there were a couple that were unavailable streaming, and we have a theater here called the Broadway in Salt Lake City that does a run of the Oscar films leading up, the shorts, documentaries, whatever. Anyways, they put this in the week before, and I was like, I have to go. It was like a Sunday, and I'm doing back-to-back films at that theater.
Nice.
And so I didn't usually for the Oscar films, unless it's a big film, I don't go into it with a synopsis. I didn't know anything about this film. And I mean, what do I say? It's so beautiful and devastating. I have a lot of feelings about it, like Ben said that he has.
Yeah.
But I feel I don't know if I want to jump right into this. After I bawled my eyes out, I just wondered in all filmmaking why writers have such a difficulty approaching grief. That was my takeaway. I just want, there was this relationship with this boy's mother and this other little boy, and even with his own parents, that nobody could talk to this kid about what had happened. And I'm a really big advocate about talking about grief. And so that was, it just really made me think a lot about it. But also the topic at hand is these relationships that boys have growing up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, they get to a certain age that all of a sudden it's not masculine enough. And you see that in the film. You see that very moment where everything changed. And I mean, I'm a girl, so like I haven't really thought about it. And it really, I listened to an interview with the director talking about how he found the boys and how they approached them, and then just this relationship of men and how they're like best buddies, and how he had done these interviews with kids and then came back to them. I don't know if it was him or if it was a study he had read, came back to these boys at this particular, it's like right at this very moment of being a preteen, and their relationships had completely changed. And I had never thought about that before. And I feel that the way that Lucas approached it was so delicate and so beautiful, but also just heartbreaking.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Sorry, I'm sorry to give
Take
you
the
one
big,
that
the
like
big sigh, man.
I mean, honestly, I'm doing my best to like keep the tears inside. Like it was just like, I mean, I showed up here late to you guys because like I need like more than a minute. Yeah, this was a beautiful movie. First of all, I'm gonna talk about stuff that won't make me cry. It's a beautiful movie. Like it's colored wonderfully, like it's so vibrant, which is really cool. My partner had commented on that, and they just like, I agree with it 100%. Like it looks amazing. It was so wonderful to watch. I love their interactions and their friendships. Yeah, it was just, I don't know, it was so cool, kind of just like picking up in the middle of it, not necessarily having to explain anything, but like the very first thing of them like playing the game, it's like, oh, this is cool. And that is something that, like you said, they're kind of preteens. Like, I don't know if we know exactly what their ages are. I was assuming like 12, somewhere around there, whatever. But it's like, yeah, it's this interesting time in life when everything just kind of like turns over, and it's just like, kind of have the thought of like, they should probably start wearing deodorant soon. Like maybe they're not yet, it's like, it's that time in your life where it's like, how do you tell a kid, like, you kind of smell like it might be time to like, this kind of seemed like that age right there. So to go through all that, and then like the interaction with peers and how that can influence your life and your decisions and all that kind of stuff. Like you said, Jessica, it's an amazing movie that deals with grief. I had no idea what was coming. I watched the trailer after Clayton told us it was his favorite movie of the year, because that's just like a bold statement for anything, just for someone to say like, oh, this is my favorite movie of the year. I mean, we went through Ethan when, you and I were on the Everything Everywhere train, and that ended up being my favorite movie of the year, and yours switched to After Sun. I was like, okay, holy shit. All right. Like, hold on. I got to see this. And again, it's another movie that just like had me in tears the next day. Like I was like at my desk crying. I was like, my God, that's such a beautiful movie. Like it's so good. Like Ethan was right. That asshole.
Finally,
he got something.
Couldn't catch a win with Tar. Couldn't catch a win with Babylon. Finally get the After Sun win.
He got it with After Sun. Yeah, no, I loved this movie. It hit a lot closer to home than I was anticipating. But yeah, like I don't really know how to talk about it outside of that. Like I really enjoyed it. It's a beautiful watch. I'd recommend it to anybody, and just it was great storytelling. It was awesome.
Yeah, I think this movie is really powerful, and which I think is, to me, a bit surprising for the shorter runtime, right? It's 1 hour and 44 minutes.
Yeah.
So I think it uses that time exceptionally efficiently. I did overall really enjoy the movie, and there were several moments where I think that we'll talk about it in true cinema, but there is a moment when Leo is kind of getting a cast put on his arm, and he broke his arm, and he just starts crying. He just like breaks down and cries. And it was just like, sick. I'm crying with you, buddy. Like that, like we're crying together now. And I loved that aspect of the movie and how raw and authentic that display of like how powerful grief is and how different people process it in different ways. And him specifically, how it kind of came in ebbs and flows and life kept moving on. Right. But I think
I still say one thing about that. One thing I really liked about that too is how sincere and gentle the doctor was trying to be.
Yeah.
He's like, I know, hurting your arm, that like really hurts. And it's like this whole last half of the movie was just a roller coaster ride of Leo's emotions, you know, it's like crying. It's like, boom, cut to the hockey game. It's like, let's go guys. It's like, and that's what it's like to be a kid. And, you know, sometimes, you know, to be an adult, which is like you said, life moves on. I love that scene because the doctor was trying to be caring. He was trying to like give him empathy. He's like, oh man, I know, you know, hurting your arm. The kid's like, dude, my arm has nothing to do with this. Like I'm crying about something so much bigger. I'm sorry to interrupt your point, but that really stuck out to me. Just how jarring all the tone shifts were, but obviously how intentional that was. Cause like you can't control that stuff.
You know, I think it's interesting too, cause you kind of lead into my point and possibly why I'm maybe not as high on this movie as both of you seem to be. I again, like totally deserved of that Oscar nomination for sure. It does to me feel like kind of a split of like two stories. And I think I resonate with each of them individually very well. And I don't know if I liked them necessarily put together. Like it is, like you said, Ben, you were not expecting, and we're in spoiler territory. So, you know, the fact that Remy dies about halfway through the movie, and we get that very stark shift into, you know, this life of grief, which understandably is kind of a smart storytelling device to put us in Leo's emotions, this roller coaster, because he didn't know it was happening either. And it just caught him off guard. And so we feel very similar to that. But I think that, you know, initial 40 minutes that we get to spend with Leo and Remy discovering their friendship and kind of figuring out what this world is at this age with that, you know, like social stigma of masculinity and what does a friendship mean and when do we lose that childhood innocence between us. I thought that was displayed so wonderfully and eloquently, and I loved their relationship. Like Ben, you mentioned, we just pick up, they're playing a game, they're just like having fun, and you're 15 or 20 minutes in and you're like, I could just like live with these kids, this is great, like I'm really enjoying what we're going through. So we'll continue to talk about that. I'm curious kind of how you guys feel. I did want to ask, Jessica, is there a certain maybe first half, second half, or a certain act of the movie that you liked more, resonated more with? Because it does feel like it kind of has that clear and concise, different storytelling to each section.
Oh, absolutely. That moment. And Ben, you said you didn't really like know what was going to happen, but like I could just feel it. Like that was the moment that was coming, that they were going to say what happened to Remy. You know, like I knew, and that's when I'm just like all the tears, all the emotions. And I don't think I'm listening to you talk, Ethan, and I remember thinking like oh, like do these boys love each other? And the conversation in my little head while I'm watching this movie is like, is this like, and like a friendship love and intimate love? And it didn't matter. Like these boys loved each other.
Yeah.
And so when you have that shift when they're on the playground and Remy gets pushed away, essentially, like that shift in the whole movie, I don't feel that there was like one act that meant more to me than another. The first thing that comes to my mind is when Leo goes to Remy's mom's house and she gives him milk and he goes in the room and they just have this, like, it wasn't even a big conversation. It was just a very intimate, quiet moment. And he like took this bus like to her work, like clear across town, like just this kid. And, you know, and you could feel like his anxiety is probably the wrong word, but like you could just feel him just trying to get to her. And I think like that just really resonated with me a lot.
Yeah, that was a good, I mean, all those moments were fantastic. I do think this might be our first episode that's done in black and white, so we can hide my bloodshot eyes because like I can't have people seeing this. I loved the first act, like you said. So there's a very distinct first and second act. Even watching the trailer, I guess that's what I mean. I had no idea what was coming. Like I just thought it was a story about, you know, kids like coming to terms with their sexuality. That's really what I thought this whole movie was going to be. And like, all right, cool. Like I'm here for it. Let's watch it. Like this is what I want to see. I don't know. Yeah. A24 has done it before, you know, with Moonlight and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, these guys know how to tell this story. Let's see it again. And then, yeah, just like the rug pulled out because we get hints of it without like it being hit over our head. You know, when the mom's like, unlock the door, you got to unlock the door, or whatever. And it's just like, I don't know, is he like masturbating in the bathroom all the time? Is that why she wants it? Like, I have no idea. You know what I mean? It's just like, it's kind of harmless. It doesn't, there's not a real concern outside of just a motherly, like, I'm counting to 3. Like, okay, yeah, this kid locks himself in the bathroom, so whatever. But then, you know, as everything unfolds, you was like, oh shit, like that's why she wanted the door unlocked. Like, that's fucking heavy, like to like go back and think about at that time. You know, and again, like my dumb brain, like when he just showed up to beach day, it's like, yeah, he probably doesn't want to see his friend having fun with other people. Like, I don't blame him for calling in sick. He's like, no, I just want to stay home. I don't want to, like, I can't go have fun at the beach right now. And so just everything, how it actually transpires and unfolds, like, oh, this is intense. I love seeing their relationship blossom, and I guess kind of like fall apart as well. Like, one of my favorite moments in this was, you know, when Remy tries to lay on Leo's stomach when there's like out on the grass, and then Leo's just like rolling over, is like, I'm just hot, like, don't lay on me, you know. And then that's like, for me, that was the real kind of tipping point of just like, oh, okay, like he's making moves to be like, we got to separate ourselves, like I can't have this happening. But yeah, I mean, if we're splitting between the two, the first act, obviously, like, we wouldn't be there with the second act without the first, but I loved seeing their relationship build. I was blown away at how quickly the second act comes in, how quickly we get this shift, because like, oh, we still have like an hour left of this movie. Like, this feels like another movie would have done this with 20 minutes left, but this was like, no, we got an hour left. We're going to sit with Leo and his feelings for the next hour. It's like, oh shit. All right. This is going to get even more intense. But yeah.
I mean, the movie touches on a lot of that stuff really, really well. And I think one of the strong suits of the film is something that I like. I know, Ben, you like in movies too, is like the ability to just wait, the ability to just be there, to just sit there and just listen to the silence and the birds and the cars passing by and these things, and this impact that we get. Jessica, you mentioned like the conversation with Leo and Remy's mom, Sophie. And, you know, I think that's really powerful stuff. And I could absolutely see how someone that might not be as well versed in movies or in international movies or French films or anything like that could be totally turned off by this mode of storytelling or this pace of storytelling. And to that effect, I ask if you find yourselves in those shoes, just please, you know, like, give it a chance and sit with it and let it simmer and let it, you know, kind of wash over you a little bit. It is, again, like only an hour and 44 minutes. Like, that is shorter than pretty much any other movie that's even coming out right now. And it utilizes that short runtime very, very well. And I think it's really impactful in that nature. So I think there's a lot of strong suits to the movie.
I didn't feel like there were any pacing issues. Like, it didn't feel abrupt anywhere. I mean, death is abrupt, right? In general. But I was just thinking as you're talking, Ben, like, clearly the family knew that they had this relationship, right? They were always having sleepovers. They were out in the field with the flowers. Like, so it makes you wonder if, like, I don't think either of them ever had a conversation with their family about this shift, because their families knew that they just loved each other, you know, like they're like brothers, you know, and so I think that's like just an interesting thought.
Yeah. You guys ready to do some true cinema? Start rolling through the movie here?
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's go. Okay. First off, we're gonna kick it off with the story of the duck and the lizard. I thought this was an excellent way to set the tone for Leo and Remy and what their relationship is, and see how much Remy means to Leo and vice versa, and how Leo understands him. He can put him to bed. He can literally calm him so much that he can put him to sleep. And I think it is the perfect introduction and kind of, metaphorical story of like who they are and who they see themselves as and what they see their relationship as. And I thought it was a really sentimental, great way to start the film.
Yeah, I loved it. It's another one of those things where even the shot we get afterwards, we just hold on them sleeping for probably like 20 seconds, something like that. Like, and it was great. It's like, yeah, this worked. Like, this is again their connection, their love for each other. Like, Leo knows how to help Remy, all that kind of stuff. And I just loved us hanging on that shot afterwards of them just like snuggled up together.
And it was but it was like that every time that they had that moment, right? It's like there was no, until later after the moment on the playground, like there was no, that's just what they did.
Yeah.
It was just symbiotic, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
It really was just them. It was like their world. And so, I like that you mentioned the calming, like you could feel that while watching it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I put on napping at school. Ben, you mentioned this as well, kind of when they're Remy's trying to kind of nap on Leo and Leo keeps rolling over. And that's when you really get that first taste of like, okay, their relationship might not be as steady as we thought, or they're kind of growing through this new season of what their relationship means. I put on here next for eating spaghetti. We get a pretty good eating spaghetti scene. Jessica, I don't know if you've seen The Killing of a Sacred Deer. Ben, I know we've covered it here on the pod. Better spaghetti eating scene. This movie's got people wiggling their ears, and then Killing of a Sacred Deer has I don't know, probably the weirdest guy ever on screen eating spaghetti in the weirdest way possible.
Yeah, when you have Barry Keoghan eating spaghetti, just like staring at you
across from Nicole Kidman.
Yeah, that stuff definitely sticks with you. But I liked this a lot too, because I know we've talked about it, but just how accepting all the families were. Like, I felt like Leo slept over there all the time. And as a kid growing up, it was like not on a school night, but it's just like that wasn't this relationship. It was like, yeah, like we'll feed you, like you're here all the time, like you're just part of the family. And I love seeing their dynamic together, all of them, like the mom, her doing her version of it and stuff like that. It was very cool to see.
Yeah, it was a fun moment.
Sorry, I can't get that reference. I'm gonna have to go.
Yeah.
That's okay. You and listeners alike. Look, if you haven't seen it, just Google "Killing with Sacred Deer" spaghetti. I'm positive that it'll pop up on YouTube. That'll haunt you for sure. Next on the list here, sleeping on the ground, and then kind of beginning that fight where Leo does move to the ground and then wakes up and finds Remy next to him again, and it's frankly kind of off-put and pretty upset that Remy followed him. And, I think there's a lot to read into there. I think it definitely is a multi-layered, pretty complex message and relationship that we're dealing with. And, we have Leo that's trying to create his own space, find his own identity within his age group and his new, set of friends at school, and getting into hockey and kind of trying to distance himself from this exceptionally close relationship with Remy. And then you have Remy, who's not on that same wavelength, and obviously they do not communicate it. They are young boys, and that is not in their kind of bag of tools to figure out how to work through this. And that kind of escalates into a little bit of biting and getting pretty mad at each other. I thought the pacing to get to this moment was good, and it felt right, and it felt natural that we were kind of starting to see these bigger escalations between them. But it broke my heart that Leo moved to the ground, and then it broke my heart that he was mad that Remy came back to the ground. And it's like, dude, he just loves you. Like, let's just platonically or not. Like, it's just, come on, he's just your guy. So, but I thought this was a great scene.
Yeah, it was sorry, go ahead, Jessica.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, especially since that's how they had been their whole life, like it's just so interesting how quickly the relationships change. That's all I want to say.
Yeah. I mean, 100%. Like it goes through so quickly. We go through this change with them, and it is all kind of like encapsulated in this scene here. And just watching them kind of fight, and again, like you said, like go from playful to just like to like both just like go to their own beds and just like turned away from each other, backs to each other, and just like dealing with it. And it's like, man, it was an intense scene to watch because you could tell how genuine they were about like how frustrated they are. Because I mean, this doesn't relate, but it kind of does. But you know, I don't know if anyone listening here, whatever, has a dog, but there are times where I just want to like go pick up my dog, even though she hates it. And I'm always like, let me love you, you know? And that's kind of how I feel about this scene where Remy's just like, let me love you, man. Like, just let me lay on the bed next to you. Like, don't be weird about this. So that's kind of what I felt like when I was watching this. Like when I go to pick up Taco, it's like, just let me love you. Just chill out.
Like, I'll give you some personal story on that. I do that with my kids as well. Like, I'll just go up to them and you just hold them and you're just like, God damn it, just let me love you. Come on. And they just don't want it to happen, you know? So I'll give you some validity on that fact.
My mom has a Great Dane Mastiff mix, and she's still a puppy. Her name's Delilah. And when she was just a puppy, and I'm allergic, but I'm like, I just want to hold you. And she's a chicken. And so now she's like getting used to me, but she would just like run away. But I'm just like, weird dog.
Yeah, exactly.
Next on the list, we have the fight at school. This is kind of the big escalation moment, right, for Remy and Leo, and they have to be held back by teachers, and Remy even escapes one of them and cries, and really an emotionally gutting moment to realize that, you know, I think what is so special about this movie is that it is very particular in the ages that it chose to walk this story, right? Because if you have a Moonlight situation, if you have a 17-year-old or a 16-year-old, you then kind of naturally and narratively want to shift towards their relationship and their communication abilities, because that's something that they can do and they're mature enough to do. We're not quite there yet with Leo and Remy, and this is how they solve that, and this is how they feel is the only way to communicate. And leading up to, I think after this scene, there's like kind of a group therapy scene, and there's a kid that mentions, most of the time I cry out of anger. And I thought that was a really smart script choice to kind of relate back to how Remy felt, and the fact that he probably did do that a lot as well, regarding their relationship. After this, we get the big reveal on the bus. Remy is no longer with us. Jessica, how did this feel getting into this scene? Did you have any idea it was coming? And what was it like for you?
Well, let me say, I have a lot of loss in my life. And I knew as soon as I saw that bus shot, I was like, I know exactly what is coming. And then I was just like, all the waterworks were on for basically like the rest of the film. I don't know, the film, the mood just shifted in that actual shot. So yes, I feel that I did see what was coming for sure. Did you? I just have a quick question. Did you feel a sense of time between when the first kids like made the comment about, oh, are you guys like a couple, to when that fight and this? Do you feel like it was a couple days? Do you feel like we're like in a week's time? Like, did you guys get any indication of like a timeline?
I feel like for me, the way I was keeping track of time, and I don't know if it was intentional or not, but it's like how good he got at skating. Cause at first he's like, he sucks, and then by the end he's like doing the backwards, like crossing his legs and stuff. And that to me, like, granted, like you spend enough time, you could do that quickly. But for me, it was just like, it felt like it was a few weeks, because it felt like I think they had like maybe played a game or something by that point. Like he was proficient on the ice at that point. And so I don't know if that was intentional or not, but that's how I was keeping track of it. Like, well, if he's been doing this, for a little while, probably took at least a couple weeks or something. So that was my guess, basically.
Yeah. I took a similar idea. I think, the film goes back to these hockey trainings and playing soccer on the schoolyard quite a bit. And I kind of use those, like each scene as a day or 2 days or whatever it might have been, right, to kind of like get to the next school day or the next playtime. So yeah, I'm in the same boat. I think at a minimum, it was probably like at least 3 or 4 or 5 days. I think it takes couple, maybe 3 weeks to get to that, to understand that. And to boil to that point, I feel like those comments have to be coming, maybe not consistently, but definitely more than once, right? That is something that is new to them to experience, and those questions and the homophobic comments that they're getting from peers that are kind of starting to learn that language and be molded and shaped by what society sees and says. I do think is at least a few weeks in my opinion. Yeah. Ben, how did the bus scene hit you, dude? I didn't know it was coming either, but I know you definitely didn't know it was coming.
Yeah, I mean, a ton of bricks, basically. It's like it's slowly you see it unravel and stuff, but then it was more as it was happening. It was like, no, it's like, this isn't it. You know what I mean? Like, this can't be what's going on. Like, again, like I told you guys my thoughts of, I just thought he just didn't want to see Leo having fun at the beach. It's just like, I just need a personal day. And like, I get it, man. Just like stay home from school. That's cool. So for it to jump to this, then it's like your parents are here. We only go to the gymnasium. I was like, what is going on here? And then obviously, it made sense that it like centers around our protagonist here. It's like, oh shit, this is a lot. And having the mom come on and I don't know, it just, it hit me super hard. I loved the whole sequence though, of just like, then him running off and riding his bike and mom driving behind him as he's doing that, and then like running through the field and then just looking through the window and seeing the door. And it's just like, that's for me. I'm like, oh shit, that's right. I remember what you talked about the bathroom earlier. Like, that's crazy that she got to the point where she had to kick the door down because he wasn't responding. Just, how everything registers when you're watching that. So yeah, that scene hit me super hard. It was very effective.
I've only got a few more on the list here. Like I said, I kind of felt like the first 45 minutes of this movie are a lot more kind of applicable to this true segment style that we have here on the pod, where I felt like the back hour was a lot more deliberately chopped up and lived in moments and bits and pieces over a longer period of time. So the 3 I wanted to call out, number 1, I have Remy's dad crying at the dinner table. I thought this was exceptionally powerful. And like I said, if I see somebody legitimately crying on screen for a sad reason, I will probably also cry. And so like seeing this guy, this grown man who, is having dinner with this family that he has grown so close with, and, talking to his son and Remy's brother, and that whole relationship, and talking about normal things of like, cool, you're back to work, and like that's great, and things are going good, and like when I graduate I want to travel for a year, and these things, and like it just fucking hits you, and that's 100% true. And I lost a really good friend about 4 months ago, and so I can attest to that, where you're just like, fuck, like this, damn it. Like, and now I'm just going to cry a lot. And so I thought that was really, really, really powerful. I'll quickly mention the other 2, and we can kind of like go back over them. The conversation with Remy's mom, Sophie, about plants. I thought this was really smartly written, and, a great metaphor for Leo learning to plant the flowers in their farm, in their garden, and both of them agreeing and understanding that when you get used to it, it is easier. Like, life is easier, right? And and in reference to planting flowers, right? But that's literally how it is, right? Like when you do it more and more and more and more days pass and more moments pass, it just becomes easier, and that's just part of life. Final 10 minutes. Leo tells Sophie that it was his fault. She tells him to get out of the car. They have a big moment in the forest, and then essentially Remy finds himself staring at an empty house, which I think is a very intriguing final 10 minutes. So I want to kind of break that down separately. Do you guys have anything to say about the dinner table and then the conversation with Sophie?
Yeah, I mean, just that dinner table conversation hit really hard too, because dad was keeping it together for the most part, but then, yeah, it's like you hear someone else talking about what they're going to do with their future and just like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm never going to hear my kid talk about this. It's just like, you just see it slowly kind of drift over him. And then the mom going outside and stuff like that stuff, that's got to be super difficult, as much as you want to just like be there and celebrate that person's like achievements and what they're going to get to do. And stuff like, oh, that's so cool. You can't help but think about yourself and just like, oh, this is something I'm never going to have this conversation with my kid. Super hard. So I thought that was a very powerful scene.
I think showing an adult giving that emotion to that. I mean, how often is that hidden? Nobody wants to cry in front of anybody, and the fact that he did, I think that was just a really beautiful moment.
Yeah.
I agree.
You're making me all teary-eyed over here. I'm like, I hope it's not showing on.
I was just thinking, this is a heavy pod. This is a big one. This is a heavy one.
There was just one part that didn't get mentioned on your notes, if you don't mind. Him playing at that concert.
Yeah.
Like that, and then them going to the concert at the end, and like him not being there, but them all being there, like, was just stunning. Like, such a moment. I have no words.
Again, I think it's a really, really phenomenal look at how life happens during grief. Like, it just doesn't end. Like, the band continues to learn their music and they keep playing, and like that's just that, and your life will never be the same, but things keep going. I am curious because sometime passed in the final few minutes of this movie, the final like 5 minutes essentially, after we get this big moment with Sophie, which quite frankly I'm a little lukewarm on, like their kind of big emotional reconciliation. I'm not quite sure how I feel about that.
You feel it needed to be like more grandiose?
Yeah, I think Sophie's, and again, like, that's the point. I know that this is the point. Like, the point of Remy dying and nobody knowing it was coming is because that is what happens. That is shocking to you and shocking to life, right? And so Sophie has her own way of dealing with her son's loss, her son going, and when Leo said, it's my fault, and she just said, get out, I was startled, and it just didn't sit right with me. But I think that's the point, right? I think that Sophie has her own emotions of how she's dealing with this. And if she heard that there was any sense that it was somebody else's fault, that's going to upset her. That's going to make her angry, because she could have saved that and she could have kept that. I do think logistically and like outside of this, movie suspension of disbelief, my guess is she probably should have known that Leo was a bit more responsible for this action, possibly because they were together so often. And we never saw that conversation or anything. But then, when Remy goes into the empty house again, like, I guess Sophie learned that and was just like, we're out of here. And that is their own way of dealing with grief. But I think it's a little short-sighted in the movie, and I felt like at the very end, like, what's the next? Like, what's next for Leo? Like, I'm really curious how we deal with this next, and we'll probably never know. Ben, do you have any thoughts on those final couple scenes?
Yeah, I mean, again, the conversation with mom was very powerful, and even I think she had some idea, because she even asked like, what happened between you guys, like when they're in the room. So I think she knew, but you never want to place blame anywhere. I think the instinct too, as I watched that scene, she tells him to get out. It's just, I think most movies, and as a viewer, I'm just like, you can't tell the kid it's his fault. You know what I mean? Like, just be like, no, it's all good. Like, he had his own mental health issues, whatever. But for her to be like, get out, it's like, oh, okay. Like, she knows what she's got to do. She's like, I just need, maybe for her, it's like, I need a minute. But he took it as, he took it how he took it. And there's just like, there's these emotions. Like, what do you do with it? Like, sometimes you don't know how to react, like in those moments. Like, I don't know. We don't need to go into like personal examples, but there's just like times when like you hear things just like, I have no idea how to respond to this right now. Like, this is this is way too much for me.
And
So
they're both experiencing trauma on different levels,
Yeah.
right?
yeah,
100%.
And so she had a choice. She could have kept driving, but she got out of her car and she ran after him. And
Yeah.
that's love, you know, even though she was hurting so much inside.
yeah, exactly. I did enjoy seeing that, I guess. So, like she had her time or whatever and was like, I know I need to go like help him know that it's not his fault. So I liked that. I liked also just quickly going back to that conversation with all the students together, and the kids are describing how they see Remy. You know, that one kid's like, oh, he was like musical and he was always happy, and there's like, oh, I thought he was always happy. You know, it's like, I don't know, man. Like just that's how we saw him. Like he always seemed happy, and that's just kind of what it is. Like you said, like this whole movie really is just like it is in real life. It's like, oh shit, I did not see that coming at all. It feels like it happens all the time when we hear about celebrity suicide. You know, like this example comes to mind because I recently just watched Miss Doubtfire. But it's like Robin Williams, like I can like was like, wait, what? You know, like you just don't know. Like, no, he's always made people laugh. He's always happy, whatever. But no one really ever knows. And I think that's what this movie does a good job of, is just like the reality of what it's like.
Yeah,
definitely. Okay, Jessica, what is your official True Cinema selection here? What's the one thing that you are going to pick?
Oh,
I'm going to put you on the spot. You have to narrow it down.
So like one moment?
One moment. It could be the best. It could be your favorite. It could be probably not the funniest. And
this is going to be on the internet forever. So don't mess it up. Don't mess it up.
Oh,
actually, I literally etched this into a stone and I mail it to you. So don't mess it up.
I mean, I will be expecting that. You know, for some reason, this just like came to my mind, that very end scene when he is with his family and they are planting the flowers again for a new season.
Yeah.
I don't know why that's just the first thing that came into my mind. That just was part of their routine, right? It's a comfort, and after all they had been through, because he's not the only one experiencing the grief. This kid was part of their family. So everybody in the family is going to be feeling it on some level. And it just was the creation of this new season. That was just what popped into my mind right there. No, how's that? How'd I do?
That's wonderful.
Really good.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, mine, I'm going to pick a different one, but mine was similar, which like him getting the cast off and just like moving his arm. Is that same kind of thing. It's like, all right, like kind of new.
You can't come in here and like usurp my pick.
I can. I just did. You can cut this out of the pod.
I was letting you two go first so I could officially decide, and that's all right.
But maybe you have different reasons.
It's true. Well, I was going off script. So mine that isn't on here, that isn't on the list, that I liked a lot at the beginning and really just kind of let us know the dynamics of the relationship, is I love when he's like practicing the oboe and he's like, I'm going to be your manager. He's like, look, we're going to get the oboe celebrities. You're going to be huge. We're going to tour the world. Where do you want to go? You want to go to Mexico? I love that. He's just like hyping him up, you know, like this was just like, he was his Flava Flav, you know, he's just like, just the hype man to the most. Like, we're going to tour the fucking world with your oboe skills, man. Like, and I like that because it was so sincere.
It was
and he just,
pure.
so pure. Exactly.
Yeah.
And I love that because I think you could read in his eyes either way, whether it was like a romantic love or a platonic love. Again, like it doesn't actually matter to the story at all. I don't think, you know, it's just like, but you could just see this deep love he has for his friend. And he's just like, wants to hype him up. Like, dude, you are killing this. I'm going to be your manager. Like we're going to run the world. And I loved that. To me, it just really spoke to their relationship and just how deep and sincere and wonderful it was.
Did you guys have a moment where you realized, because you were thinking about that romantic relationship in the first, 15, 20 minutes, where you switched to that, it doesn't matter? Did you have that moment?
Yeah, I don't know exactly what the moment was. I think I was falling back on other tropes or something like that, or what I would expect of the kid, like us dealing more with Leo's feelings of like, oh, actually I am gay. I just don't want them to call it out. Or Remy, you know, it's like, well, what's wrong if you're gay? Like, who cares? But we don't really ever address that, you know, at all. And I don't know that I had an exact moment, but there was a point where it's like, yeah, it actually doesn't matter at all. Like really at all, like what their relationship is. Like, it's just been affected because Leo's been affected by someone else talking about it.
Yep.
But so I don't know. Like that's a great non-answer from me per usual. But
That's
it's
fair.
just at some
Dodge.
point it was just like, yeah, this doesn't matter at all. I don't know.
You know, in retrospect, the brief scene where Leo is basically, questioned, why are you guys so close all the time? Are you guys together? His answers are pure. They're authentic. They are literally what is in his mind of like, no, we're just so close. We're almost brothers. Like we're just close. We just love being together. And, title be damned. Like that is exactly what this movie is. It's just how close are you with those that are around you? So I think that moment, ultimately, when I watched it the first time, it was very much like, oh man, that sucks. Like this must be really hard for Leo because he's trying to figure out how he feels about Remy, and he's probably going to come out to him and tell him that he loves him. And like under that scope, like it could totally play out like that. But then when you see and when you go back, you really realize like, oh, cool. Like the girls that are asking the questions, like sometimes you're just like society sucks, and like that's just that. And so like it does suck, and it doesn't suck for Leo. It just is a bummer. Like that is how people, view that. I'm sticking to it. My favorite scene is like the 15 seconds that he gets his cast off. And he what I think is really powerful about that, not the fact that he cries so well, and the actor Eden Dambrine, I believe, is sublime in this movie. It's unreal. The fact that the doctor asks him to move it, and he moves it around, and I took that as a very telling metaphor of once you have a wound or an injury or grief or something like that, and you give it enough time and you help it enough in the right ways, when it's ready, you can move from that. You can move, and you can start to be flexible, and you can start to do other things. And I think this movie is really layered with those visual metaphors. When he's playing hockey and what leads up to him breaking his arm, no matter how many pads he puts on, no matter how much gear he tries to protect himself with, he still gets a broken arm, and it comes out of nowhere, and he just gets hit with it, right? And it's literally exactly what grief is doing in this film. So I think there's a lot of powerful moments for sure.
Can we just talk about this kid really quick?
Yeah.
This is literally his only credit on IMDb.
Both of them. Both of them.
Like no TV, no shorts, no nothing. Just this movie.
So the director went around to schools and specifically picked out these two boys and had them come in to auditions over and over again.
Wow.
Like I'm gonna send you guys the link to the interview that I read, because it was incredible hearing about how he picked these boys.
Yeah, I would love to read that.
Crazy. That's amazing. That's really cool. Okay, A1 acts. We have two A1 acts. Ben, you mentioned this is like the first movie that most of these people have done. Lucas Don't, I believe, had a movie prior to this. I don't think any of us have seen it. So we're going to go with Best International Feature Film nominations. Close did not win. You can pick a winner if you want to pick a winner. It's totally up to you. I have a short list. Obviously, there's like hundreds of options here, but here is the Best International short list here. Rashomon, The Virgin Spring, Through a Glass Darkly, 8.5, Cinema Paradiso, Life is Beautiful, All About My Mother, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, Pan's Labyrinth, Dogtooth, Incendies, The Hunt, The Square, which Triangle of Sadness, shout out Ruben Östlund, Roma, Parasite, Parasite, Another Round, Drive My Car, The Worst Person in the World, and All Quiet on the Western Front. Ben, what's your pick? I have an idea, but I tried to put it on the list, so you might not pick it.
So you would pick it.
I'm curious to hear what you think it would be. I am going off list here. While one of my favorite movies of all time is on this list, I want to take the opportunity to talk about A Prophet.
Yes.
Yeah, a French film about a petty thief who goes to jail and basically works his way up the hierarchy, kind of like becomes like an assassin and a drug trafficker within the prison. And yeah, just like his rise to success and all that kind of stuff. It's a wonderful, wonderful movie. If you enjoy the movies of Ryan Coogler, this is his favorite movie of all time as well.
Wow.
So I definitely recommend checking out A Prophet. We covered it recently on the other podcast, 3 Films and a Podcast, coming up, and it was just like, man, it was such a good movie. So, you know, I like to go off the list as much as possible. But I will shout out also Rashomon. Like, if you haven't seen it, check out Rashomon. It's one of like Kurosawa's best movies ever. It's so good.
Yeah, Rashomon's good. I thought you were gonna go with Parasite. I know you're a Parasite boy.
I mean, I'm staring at my Parasite poster right here. Like,
See?
I could have,
God.
and I probably should have.
Dang.
But yeah, I'm going to go with A Prophet.
That's fair. Jessica, what are you rolling with for this A1 act here?
Don't worry, I'll pick Parasite for you.
Hell
then.
yeah, thank you.
Parasite was my first actual Asian film in the theaters.
Nice.
And I believe I saw it twice because I loved it so much. It was just so different from anything I had ever seen. I loved the way they filmed it. Like, it just had that like dark tone to it, like actual filming. And I love the like turn at the end. It's like,
Insanity.
what the heck?
Yeah.
Yes.
Great
Yes.
movie.
And I need to give that one a rewatch for sure.
Yeah, I picked up the Criterion edition when they had their last sale. I gotta pop it on the old 4K player there. That'd be good.
Nice.
Look, this definitely made me confront the fact that I have a big problem watching older international films. I have not seen a lot of older international films. I have seen Rashomon. I have seen a few of these on the list, and I just recently watched Cleo from 5 to 7, which is not nominated for Best International, but a wonderful 60s French Agnes Varda film. I am going to go with The Worst Person in the World. I fucking love this movie. I think it is phenomenal, and it is everything that I like in a movie, and has probably one of the coolest smoking scenes of all time. Smoking on screen is great, and this one has it. So that's what I'm going with. Second one we've got are movies about grief. I just have a short, kind of like a really short list here. Big Fish, Truly, Madly, Deeply, Up, 3 Colors Blue, P.S. I Love You, Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close, Rabbit Hole, and Field of Dreams. If you Google movies about grief, it's a pretty wide net. I'm going to be honest with you. A lot of people think a lot of movies that are probably not actually about grief can be about grief, and that's okay. Like, that's totally you do what you want to do. But I wanted to keep it a little honed in for our pod here. Jessica, what are you going with for your A1 act?
Oh, I'm actually going off list. If I'm allowed to go off list.
Oh, you're turning on me. Oh, come on.
I'm going with Beaches.
Oh, fuck yeah. Beaches rules.
So Beaches came out just right. I think it just came out like right before I lost my mom. And I have seen that movie probably a million times. And, you know, it not only does it deal with grief in the death, but also grief in the loss of friendship, right? Over the time from them being young and getting older and moving on with life and how relationships change. So that is my grief pick.
Nice.
I just added it to my watch list on Letterboxd. So thanks, Jessica.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
But don't watch the new one, just the old Bette Midler one.
Yeah, that's the one I added.
I didn't even know there was
I
a
didn't
new one.
even think about it.
It's terrible.
It's interesting. We do a segment on my other pod called Elevator Pitch where you like pick a scene from a movie to hook someone, like if they hadn't seen it before. And Beaches is like the perfect example of just showing them the intro. Because if you're not hooked by the intro, like the moves she makes in that first like 2 minutes, it's like, okay, I have to know what happens next, you know? And like, there are some movies that do that, you know, like, I don't know, Inglourious Bastards, like you get that conversation, you're hooked in, all that kind of stuff. But Beaches for me was just the one where it's like, oh, I would just show them the first like 3 minutes of the movie. Cause if you're not invested at that point, you're not going to be invested. But like, it's so good. Ethan, both of us want to hear your review after you see that. Cause Beaches is awesome.
Right.
Wait, you've never seen Beaches?
No, that's why I added it to the watch list.
He just added it to his watch list. He's
Special
see
I thought like a rewatch.
No,
man. Beaches pot coming up.
I'm gonna be waiting for my Rock and my Beaches review.
100%. Both will get mailed to you physically. Yeah.
Typed or written out.
I am also going off the list here. And it's funny you mentioned beaches because I feel like I'm talking about the other podcast so much, and I don't mean to, but it actually ties into it because we did a round where we wanted to focus on multiple female leads. And in the same round we did beaches, we also covered Steel Magnolias.
I knew it. Good one.
Which is, I think it's a fantastic movie, a great cast. Also, having just watched Miss Doubtfire, I got to talk about Sally Field. Like she's so good in this. So I want to mention Steel Magnolias. It's another one. Have you seen it, Ethan?
No, but it's on my watch list because I knew you guys were talking about it on the pod. So I was like, oh, and
Steel Magnolias.
Haven't watched it.
But the one I'm going to pick that was just another like super gut punch of a movie is Manchester by the Sea.
Okay.
I don't know if either of you have seen that, but
Yeah.
God damn, man.
Well, you guys are killing me.
Don't watch it tonight after watching Close. Like it is like it's super heavy.
Not
it
a
is
double
so
You'll
feature.
be all in your feelings.
But that's what I would go with because that movie at some point is just like it really is a gut punch. So
What Dreams May Come is also another one.
Oh,
I was
yeah.
gonna say that one first, and I was like, no, Beaches is my go-to.
Yeah, let's keep the Miss Doubtfire thing going here. I like it.
Right?
Yeah, so that's what I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna like shout out Steel Magnolias, but my pick is Manchester by the Sea.
Nice.
Okay, I'm swerving left. I'm going off the list, and I'm not going with a conventional grief film.
Oh, so you're one of these people that casts a wide net that you're just sucking shit on? Is that what I understand? Okay.
Look, I just wanted to preface. I got to
just
come
say
in with
that
the
you hate Up. Just say you
hot
hate Up
takes.
and let's move on.
Up fucking rules, okay? And unlike Chris Ryan, I have seen the film, I promise. Up is great. I did consider it. I was like, man, Up is pretty good. I haven't seen it in a long time. I'm actually going to go with, considering we are an A24 pod, I'm going with Hereditary, man. They lose their daughter and they grieve in the most horrific, great ways possible. It's just it's crazy. Hereditary is great. I need to rewatch it, but I think that's a really interesting, devilish, demented look at how you can deal with grief.
Well, you can just hear Toni Collette when you talk about this. You can just hear her like screaming, like her cry scream. Like
Oof.
I watch it every time it's on. It's always on Showtime. I'm like, I'm watching this again, and I'm covering my eyes during that one scene, like every time, even though I know what's happening.
I am your mother.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's our A24 rankings? Jessica, I'll let you go first. You've got freedom here. You can go A through F24. You can throw some pluses or minuses in there if you need to. What are you giving Close?
I for sure would give it an A24 just because of how I felt when I walked out of the film. And I'm on like Marco Polo with my cousin, just like sobbing. Yeah. And I was like, I just saw this film. And yeah, for sure, an A24.
Yeah,
nice.
I'm with you. There's part of me that want to take the easy route and just claim jet lag and exhaustion, having just got back from Japan. It's like I was traveling for like 30 plus hours. Like it's fine that I cried for 10 minutes after the credits rolled. Like it was that.
True. Yeah.
But honestly, I would have been crying like that anyway. So I'm also going with an A24 for this.
Wow, nice. Okay, 2 A24s. I feel a little pressured right now, if I'm gonna be honest with you. I feel like I gotta go for the triple header here, but I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna stay true. I'm gonna give it a B24, and it was nominated for Best International. Like that's totally, that makes sense. Totally deserved. I do think the performances are just beyond stellar, and moment by moment, kind of breaking it down. I think there's a lot to say and a lot that's worth it. I just, for me, don't know if it all was as cohesive as I was hoping I would maybe connect to, but I can also blame that a little bit on how I had to watch it. I had to watch it, with my kids running around the house, kind of coming into my room, and, I got to help this, I got to pause the movie there. And so, I didn't have that 110% kind of attention that I so regularly preach that you should have when you watch a movie. So, what are you going to do? We'll revisit this one day for sure. Ben, you bought it on Vudu and you texted me and you're like, I'm pretty sure I'm going to like it enough to warrant a buy. And I feel like that panned out good.
Yeah. I don't know how soon I'm going to rewatch it because I don't feel like I need to cry until I don't know, November or something. But yeah, I'm glad that I think it was a right call because this was a good one for sure.
Yeah, this was a good one. Next week on the pod, we are planning to cover Kelly Reichardt's new feature film, Showing Up. We will see if we can show up to some screenings of that movie. It's already been out for a few weeks, so we'll see what we can manage. We're kind of in that weird gray zone between like theatrical release and VOD release with the movie, so we'll see. Possibly a mystery pod episode. Keep you on your feet and keep you guessing. Jessica, thanks so much for coming on the pod. This was incredible.
Guys,
thank you for
so nice to
ruining our lives with this movie and making us so sad. If people want to find more of you, where can people find you at?
Just my handle at SweetPJess. That's everywhere. Instagram, Twitter. I mostly talk about film and pop culture.
Nice.
So
yeah,
that's all that matters.
And then my Instagram's all cake. So
yeah, nice.
Perfect.
Yeah,
I love it.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Yeah, or if you just follow us, you'll just see me adding Jessica every time you watch this movie and blaming her. So
yes, I'm here for
it. You
can
find us through there as well. But yeah, you all heard our thoughts on Close. We'd love to hear your thoughts on Close. It is a recommend, I think, from all three of us.
Yeah.
Even if Ethan gave it the low grade of a B24, it's fine.
Ooh,
not in his feelings.
Not his feelings at all. Yeah, let us know what you think about the movie. We are also on Twitter and Instagram at 24 minutes of A24. Also, don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube, where you can see all of our beautiful faces and my bloodshot eyes. I think I still have like tear streaks down.
Don't worry,
here,
I blacked and white this thing, dude. Don't worry.
Good, perfect. I'm glad to hear that. But yeah, subscribe to us on YouTube. And yeah, we'll see you guys next week. I am Ben Lawhorn.
And I am Ethan Simi. Spring break forever, bitches.